Hey Alexia, hey Foster. This is Luan from Belo Horizonte. I would like to ask you guys about self-measurement of your level of English because I think it's widely known that some people lie on their resume, and I would like to know from you guys what is the best way to self-measure your English to put in a resume. Uh, Yeah, because I would like to try and avoid overestimate and underestimate my English. So yeah, this is my question.
I think something that a lot of people perhaps forget about is just including relevant language experience. So, for example, if you studied abroad, I would include that. Um, so, in my case, if I was applying for a job in Portuguese in Brazil, I would probably say, hey, I lived in Brazil for 2 years. I speak Portuguese, that kind of thing. So if you have direct experience with the language, I think that's an important thing to include. And you could also talk about your education. Like, I studied in this course for this number of years. That's another way, kind of, to avoid the trap of self measurement, but still give the person more information about your level of English. Okay, and last but not least, I'm going to try to actually answer the real question. So, what is the best way to measure your English to put on your resume? So, if we are talking about true self measurement, what should you say? I think an important first step is to use the same language that is on the application. So different companies will say different things. Like they will say a fluent level of English is required for this job, or proficiency in English is required for this job. So I do think it's really important to think about the job and the actual function and task that you will be doing every day, and then think about the language that they are using on the application, and honestly ask yourself if you meet that level. So, for example, if an application says we require an advanced level of English for this position, and the position, you know that you are going to be talking to native speakers, you're going to be having conversations with Americans every day. You know, when they say advanced, they mean really advanced. So if you feel capable and motivated to have conversations with native speakers every day, and you are confident in your ability to do that, then I would say I have an advanced level of English. I would just use the same vocabulary, the same phrase that they use on the application. But there are exceptions when perhaps you could exaggerate a little bit. So, a lot of times I see companies saying we require a high level of proficiency in English, or fluency in English is required. But perhaps it's for like a technical position at a software company, and perhaps you were going to have to write some emails to international clients maybe a few times a month, but you're not speaking English on a daily basis. In that case, I think it's okay to say, okay, I have fluency in English, because for the purposes of that particular position, you can perform all of the functions and tasks confidently, and you can do the job well. So I know that's a very complicated answer to a complicated question. In summary, Luan, I would say first, just recognize that self-measurement, self-awareness is a really difficult thing. In your case, I can tell you objectively as an English teacher that your English is already quite advanced. You speak very well. You should feel confident to put advanced or proficient or whatever they're asking for on your resume. Also, you have the option of getting a certification, taking some English test online and including that on your resume. Or you can use the European framework and include that. So A1, B1, whatever they're asking for. And finally, I think it's important to include relevant language experience that you have. So if you've traveled, if you've studied, talk about what you've done in the language, and I think that will also help. And last but not least, try to be relatively honest if possible. Okay, thank you for the question, Luan. I hope I gave you a somewhat intelligent answer. Next time, Alexia will be back, hopefully. And until then, as always, keep up the good fight and lose well.